one of our ones that we truly love. So I want to thank you for this. It says that a police officer pulled over a driver and informed him that because he was wearing his seatbelt, he had won $1,000 from a safety competition. So the officer asked him, "What are you going to do with your $1,000 winning?" And he said, "Well, I guess the first thing I will do is go to driving school and get my license." And at that moment, his wife leaned over and said, "Don't mind him, officer. He's always arrogant like this when he's drunk." And as soon as she said that, the man in the back woke up. And when he saw the cop, he said, "I told you guys we wouldn't get far in this stolen vehicle." And just as he said that, somebody knocked on the trunk and said, "Are we across the border yet?" So as we continue on this idea, the awakening power, just lost my screen. Yes, I did. Okay, Paul is on the thing. He's coming to, oh, here we go. All right, here we go. All right. The awakening power, and then chapter 22, the Christ. And then, of course, our scripture is open. Well, family, we have traveled through a rising. We have been greeted with newness in that Lenten season in our Easter tune. And so it's time that we realize that this awakening power, the time when this is the time we accept our divinity, our divine heritage, our true understanding of this spiritual teaching. The truth is that we are all one. We have each been called to do a simple yet great work, to expand our awareness of this great power that is love, that is God, to recognize ourselves as an infinitely creative force in the world and actively claim our unity with it, that we shall gradually, subsequently, inevitably be led to the experience of oneness. We are told to truly experience oneness is one of the joyous rewards of consciousness of the higher self while we walk this earth. And yet our universal awareness, our way of thinking, our very philosophy must evolve. Intellect and ego have run rampant far too long. We are to tame and train our human self through spiritual means, through the awakening power, allowing the higher self to unite and become one with that lower self. And what I'm talking about, Lord, we're just talking about our human self, that part of us that fear and doubt and worry and get angry and gossip. We want to raise that to that higher self and allow it to balance itself where we demonstrate the presence and power of God. We are on this journey to continuously adjust to the frequency of truth, to recognize this higher vibration of divine life, to not be anxious for nothing, to be patient with ourselves and all others as we grow. We can't force this divine awakening. We must trust ourselves to get there as we put in the work and trust God to accompany us through the whole process. Remember, the law being no respecter of person, it works for all alike. The way to one's spiritual enlightenment, as we are always reiterating, is prayer, visioning, meditation, an openness, a willingness to be led, guided, and directed by the divine. So often we allow news, we allow pandemics, we allow people, we allow the appearance of limitation or lack to sway us. And we just heard the song. When those things happen, what we have to do is stand. What we have to do is be still and know. And we must ask ourselves some questions. Am I buying into the old thought patterns? Remember, each moment is a new one. Or am I open for a more whole, perfect, balanced expression of being, thinking, and doing? Do I find myself jumping to treatment and or meditation just during the challenging times without taking spiritual responsibility to bring false beliefs that may exist in the subconscious layer of mine to the light of truth? Am I honoring my sonship and my daughtership with the divine? Am I striving for the vibration of oneness at the expense of bringing such awareness into my everyday experiences? Am I seeking to see the face of God in everyone that I meet, in every place that I go? Am I willing to go the extra mile to an awakening to my spiritual magnificence? Ernest Holmes reminds us in the philosophy of Jesus about the power he used, that this same power must be availed to everyone. All that we've read and heard of Jesus, that he was ever loving, compassionate, and kind. But we tend to overlook something else about him that is equally important. Jesus had access to a spiritual power that he used in every way. To him, it seemed the most natural thing in the world that he should be able to tell the paralyzed man to walk, multiply the loaves and the fish, or still the wind and the waves. We also have access to this same power. Even his own followers thought he must have been using a power no one else possessed. But however, we study his teaching carefully, and his teaching is nothing but this new thought movement. We find that he said what others could do, what he did, others could do. And all we had to do was follow the rules that he followed. And with some investigation, finding out what is the nature of this power. How does it operate? And we are not just talking about the healing miracle of the people being restored to physical health. For while this is great and wonderful, there is much more to life than just ridding ourselves of a pain. And what I mean by that is so often we allow the physical to take over. And we don't look at that the physical is obeying our mental, our thinking, our consciousness. So to run around and take everything to try to get rid of a pain, we must focus on our mental understanding of why the pain even showed up. So everything starts with a thought. This power is available for every purpose, but the consciousness has to be in alignment. We must know that we have access to an intelligence that guides us in everything when we trust it to do so. The master teacher had a deep inward peace, a feeling of security that removed all confusion, doubt, and uncertainty from his mind. What we want to do is locate the key that unlocks the doorway to this power that's greater than we are, a power greater than all human challenges. The secret, as we were told, is to develop a certain kind of relationship with God that is all powerful, everywhere present, and all knowing. So when we develop our relationship with the Creator, knowing that he walks with us, talks with us, tells us that we are its very own, we will learn to lean not on our understanding, but its knowing. The greatest awakening of all is that this power, this presence, and that magnificence that's within each of us, the key is our consciousness. As we think, so are we. We must get accustomed to thinking of the power and the energies in nature and study that the whole field of modern science is devoted to the discovery of these powers, learning how to apply them for our everyday needs. These powers which science uncovers have always existed. They were always there waiting to be used and always ready to respond when we use them correctly and rightly. Science discovers the powers, unlocks its energy, and uses them for definite purposes, for the betterment of humanity. These powers operate for us as though they are our servants. We employ them. We don't have to coerce them or beseech them. We merely use them. And what I mean by coercing and beseeching, a lot of times we think that if we cry, if we beg God, if we promise to study, to go to church, to pray, those things do nothing to God and they do not help us. But when we merely just use what we've been given, they will work for us. So when we use them, that is what Lenten season, our Eastertude, a start over, a starting again right where we are. Many disciples, as we read about, and those are students of the teaching, many apostles, teachers of the teaching, and then the masters, they all take seasons during their journey to remember their divinity with the divine. And that's what those 40 days and 40 nights, that's what that 7 is about, is that when we can do something spiritually and we do it consistently, trusting and believing in it, it has to return to us that we believe it to do. Jesus had access to another kind of power, which he called the power of the Spirit. So let us first understand, Jesus believed himself to be one with God. He believed that the divine presence was right where he was. He communed with this presence through prayer, meditation, until it was the most real thing to him in life. That this power can be used by anyone who has faith in it. And he had all the faith that he needed to do what we call miracles. And all it is an alignment with God consciousness. Faith is the perceiving power of mind that's linked with the power to shape substance. Faith is spiritual assurance. It is the power to do the seemingly impossible. Faith is a magnetic power that draws unto us our heart's desires. Faith is a deep inner knowing that is sought is already ours for the taking. To have faith in God is to have the faith of God. Faith is more than mere belief. It is the very substance of that which is believed. To the human was given the highest power in the universe, the conscious power of thought. That thinking faculty is the inlet and the outlet of all of our ideas. But how can we believe in a power we can neither touch, taste, nor handle? Well, there's an analogy, and I think a lot of truth students have heard it. I believe it came from Ernest Holmes, and it breaks down the simplicity of science. When it was discovered that a hen can lay a certain number of eggs and then sit on them, and she hatches out chickens. But someone had the foresight to realize that you can have as many as you want and sit on them and have as many eggs as you want, and therefore that they can cover, and then as many chickens as desirable, provided you actually put the hen and the eggs together. So here's an example of the way nature works with complete independence of our thoughts, our will, or our desire. But always with this in mind, that when we comply with the thing itself, the way it works, what it actually can do for us by doing through us, we receive the benefits. Neither you nor I ever put a chicken in an egg, nor did we ever take one out. But the hen instinctively, by some method of which she is not consciously aware, but follows the law of her own life, she lays the eggs and then sits on them, and nature performs the miracle for her. That power, that invisible power, if we would trust and have faith in being still and knowing the nature of God performs what we call miracles, but only as commonplace with God. The power which does this cannot be seen or touched, but the thoughts and the ideas flow as wisdom. Even now with advanced technology, we've built incubators, and then you can set the eggs in there at a certain temperature for a certain period of time with complete assurance, with absolute faith. For experience has taught us we can do all things through this Christ presence. We are told there is a divine presence that will guide us if we let it. There is a power that will operate for us if we have faith that it will. We are told this presence is love, this power is good, and that we cannot hope to derive the greatest benefit from the present as divine guidance or the power of the operation of divine love until we greet the presence in love and use the power for good. Every time we think on this divine presence, we invite it in. And then we draw inspiration into our minds, into our imaginations, and then loose it through our action. And this is not about just having intellect, because intellect is reading all the books, taking all the classes, but it doesn't go no further than your neck, than your head. That means you're just knowing. It has to drop to that heart center to be felt. And then into that second layer of the subconscious mind, that it invades and erases those old thoughts, old beliefs. And then it has to touch and bear witness through the soul. There is no doubt that there is a power for good in the universe, and we can and should use it. The question then is, why don't we use it more effectively? And if all things are possible to faith, why don't we have more faith? If affirmative prayers are answered, why don't we always pray affirmatively? It does seem very strange that since most of us, if not all of us, want success, joy, and happiness, that we might be keeping them away from us without even knowing it. We are thinking active sinners in the law of mind. The sum total of our thoughts are either silently attracting our good or repelling them from us. Remembering the subconscious mind is a storehouse that retains all the thoughts and memories we've ever had. It is this subconscious storehouse of memory, previous acts, thoughts, and emotional reactions to life that practitioners or psychologists deal with. Our successes or our so-called failures, our joys or our so-called miseries, dis-ease or wholeness. That same power that restores, renews with positive thoughts and actions is the same power that does the opposite with negative thoughts. Change our thinking, we change our circumstance, we change our life. Most of our thinking is unconscious. This is where we develop our habits, beliefs, most times handed down from infancy, where they were never really dealt with, because they told us children were to be seen and not heard. So we kept our expressions, our inner voices covered up. And it shows itself in our history, even now, as civil unrest, anger, hatred of all sorts, mistreatment of all kinds, governmental stupidity of all sorts, and wild behavior of every kind. In my writing this week, this lesson led me to the words of the Isley brothers, Harvest for the World. And the words say this: all babies come together, every one a seed. Half of us are satisfied, half of us in need. Love's bountiful in us, tarnished by our greed. When will there be a harvest for the world? A nation planted, so concerned with gain, as the seasons come and go, greater grows the pain, and far too many feeling the strain. When will there be a harvest for the world? And then they tell us to gather every man, gather every woman, celebrate your lives, give thanks for your children, gather everyone, gather all together, overlooking none, hoping life gets better for the world. Says, dress me up for battle when all I want is peace. Those of us who pay the price come home with the least, and nation after nation turning into beasts. When will there be a harvest for our world? But I say this awakening power we are talking about this month is where we can change the horrific outcomes of our lives, which will then spill into our families, neighborhoods, and communities, cities and countries across all our nations. Let us empty unhappy and fear-based thoughts. Change them so that the natural, normal flow of God life shall be resumed. A true affirmative attitude will always overcome the negative. We are really surrounded by a creative law of mind that reacts to our thinking. The sum total of all of our thinking really decides what's going to happen to us next. We can actually change our thinking and cause the very law that limited us to bring us freedom. What more could we ask for? What more could be given? We can be free in this world to enjoy life, to enjoy our journey with spirit and with each other. We've seen many, clearly not enough people demonstrate peace, prosperity in many areas. And Jesus told us, if you know these things, happy are you if you do them. We must begin to open and tend to our spiritual tool chest. And that's affirming daily. I do have faith. I do believe. I do have conviction. I trust the universe. I do know and understand there's a power greater than I am, and I do realize I can use it. There is nothing in me that can doubt, deny, hinder, or limit this power. My whole being accepts it, both consciously and subconsciously. And with this family, we shall be preparing our minds to pray affirmatively, which means we pray effectively. This is probably one of the most important single things we can do. Prepare the mind, till that soil of consciousness in order to launch a great adventure of dynamic spiritual self-expression and self-discovery. Ernest Holmes says, through the art of affirmative prayer, the limitless resources of the spirit are at our command. The power of the infinite is at our disposal. And it says, imagine a window covered in dirt and dust, and you can't see through it. Then imagine spraying it with glass cleaner. The glass becomes clearer. The more you wipe, the more the window becomes transparent and lets the light in. Well, our affirmative work unfolds in much the same way. They act like the cleaning agent, our affirmative prayers dissolving dark thoughts, beliefs, wrong words, and negativity in our consciousness. Affirmative prayer is a powerful process, not to cajole or impress God of our understanding, but to change our perception of a situation. Limiting ideas we may hold. Ideas by themselves cannot produce change. Our effort must go in the right direction, and one must correspond to the other. Let us set our sights high. The higher, the better. Expect the most wonderful things to happen, not in the future, but right now. Realize that nothing is too good. Allow absolutely nothing to hamper you or hold you back in any way. Khalil Gibran tells us any pain we may face through life is only the breaking of the shell that encloses our understanding. So let us move through life without any more struggle. And I will say that I know that a lot of our seniors feel like, let the young people did it. I've done it. But joy and happiness and peace does not have an age. Let your heart live young. No matter what the years may say, you still, when you take a breath in the morning and open your eyes, God still has need of each of us, that we can be an example of the divine, utilizing our divinity. And in closing, I want to read this poem that I think speaks to this month. It's called New Eyes. It says, I see things differently now. I see that hope is something I have joyfully lost, so it has been replaced by a richer and more frequent faith. I see deeper who I am and who I've always been. I see that no matter how often I have not met the mark I have set for myself, I always unconditionally loved and believed in my Creator. I see that my every thought is a step on this mortal journey, and I am constantly gifted with the power to choose my thoughts. I see that I need no more be imprisoned by fears, uncertainties, or doubts. As I focus on now, I see that I know, and I know that I know. I see that I am a bud whose full bloom is now peeking through. Now I see with new eyes. Peace and abundant blessings, my church family, for listening.